felt I was different. Made me feel respectable. It was dignified. Very exquisite, very refined. I love the symphony. I love going there just to take a step back and feel like I have a little class. What the fuck's going on in here? They got something Saturday mass. I don't know. Get up in there a little bit. What the fucking church all lit up? What kinds? Well, it was. I'm just trying to figure out why the fuck there would be people at this church tonight. Oh, there's a bunch of cars around it. Lights that up. I love the dress.
Thank you.
I think I have one home just like it. So, anything ABBA. If I see ABBA on the title, Mamma Mia, ABBA, I'm going to buy a ticket. I'm going to go. It's plain and simple. Now, I just stopped off at the grocery store to get myself something for the 40th anniversary of the Golden Girls, which is tomorrow. And that would be a cheesecake. So, I'm going to have a Golden Girl. I mean, my internet sucks. So, I'm probably going to wait another 5 years to break the world record and watch unless somebody can make a phone call to AT&T and create an account for me, which I doubt, but just throwing it out there. But I'm not gonna make any attempts because now my Wi-Fi is buffering. It's been 3 fucking cut out here. I've got a new router, a new modem, a new cord, and no matter what the fuck they do, I'm still getting buffering. So I just hey, TJS, I'm on my way to back home. I stopped and got a cheesecake to celebrate the 40th anniversary of the Golden Girls. And in light of the constant buffering, I'm going to wait 5 years and then stay up for 108 hours. But tomorrow is also my 35th. I think. It's today the 13th. I don't even know when my birthday is. God damn it, If today's the 13th, then yeah, my birthday's tomorrow. Whenever the fuck the 14th of September is, that's when my goddamn birthday is. Hell. But I'm on my way home now. And I got a hankering for those dry potato flakes. That's all I kept thinking about. when I was just sitting there listening to them play Queen. Now, when they were playing ABBA, it got my mind off of the mashed potatoes. But I can't believe I literally, like, when I was at this concert. No, I don't have a pet, but I have 20 animatronics in my small little apartment. And I'll show you once I get in. It is hot as a fucking bitch out here, too. It is hot. Especially in this outfit. Thank God I had the foresight to take my pants off at the concert. Relax, I had another pair on. Oh, it's a lovely expressway. The way we haven't gone before. Because Spectrum can't get their head out of their asses, that's why. And Spectrum is the bane of my existence. Oh my God, get me the... Oh, fuck. Shit. That was nasty. I'll never get in that elevator again. That smelled like a cross between a homeless person and a homeless dog. I swear somebody must have came in here off the fucking street and took themselves a nice little siesta. But do I have a pet? No, but here's here's a room full of animatronics. Where am I? St. Louis, Missouri. I gotta put my cheesecake in the refrigerator for tomorrow. And since I was listening to country music earlier today, well, I figured that's for tomorrow for my birthday. I think I'm going to have some juice. Switch it up a little. Oh, thank you. And a good night to you, so have a wonderful rest. And pleasant dreams.
Clumsiest atom. Now, a normal person might find the latter. A slightly more ambitious person might find the latter.
I need. I'm gonna have a cup. See? I'm sorry, these juices are so damn small. Look how tiny. Alright, I'm putting 3 in 1. Just gonna be grape and apple cherry and apple cherry. I mean, how the fuck are you supposed to drink something like that? One sip and it's gone. I'm sorry. It's gonna take longer for me to open these son of a bitches than it is for me to drink this. Phew.
When his co-workers found him, the scene was a perfect tableau of tragic comedy. A crushed man.
Now, And by the way, if anyone was watching that little live stream of that concert and y'all heard the yeah, well, that was
This
me.
is a cautionary
And,
tale about
and
the dangers of
everybody
trusting the main
stopped to look.
character. Our story takes us to an English fairground, a place of bright lights, cheerful music, and giant spinning machines designed to make you question your lunch choices. Our hero, a man who clearly felt the world wasn't paying him enough attention, decided he needed a better view. He was on the Ferris wheel, but being inside one of the little cars was too mainstream for him. He wanted to be on top of the world.
Darwin's, nice. I walked in on the Darwins. I love the Darwins.
He did something that made everyone on the ground stop and stare. He climbed out. He scrambled onto the roof of his own moving gondola, stood up, and began waving to the crowds below like he was the king of the fair. For a glorious moment he was. He was the center of attention, a daredevil silhouetted against the night sky. But Ferris wheels, by their very nature, are constantly in motion. As his car began its descent, he lost his balance. He wobbled, flailed his arms, and then tumbled off the roof. But his journey wasn't over. Oh no. This is where the story goes from a simple...
I could drink that stuff all day long.
...methodical nightmare. He landed on the roof of the car directly beneath his. And then, as the wheel continued its relentless, grinding rotation, he would systematically and unavoidably run over by every single car on the way down. Thump. The next car passed over him. The wheel turns. Thump. The next one. The wheel turns. It was like being on a conveyor belt of blunt force trauma. He was processed by the very ride.
Have I ever acted? No, but I want
The
to.
machine, with its cold mechanical indifference.
I want to be on stage and in movies so bad it hurts.
Finishing the job, one car at a time. It's a grim reminder that some machines are designed for you to be a passenger.
And I think I'll be a natural at it. I mean, like,
And when you try to
when I go to these events,
always win. 6.
I dressed down today because
This is a story about what
if I wore my regular outfit, everybody would be stopping to admire it.
Where two buddies,
And then I'd be talking to everybody, and then
decided to pull off
I hear, you have main character energy. Why don't you get up on stage? Why don't you do this?
They were going to steal
I
a
want
hot
to,
air
believe me.
not to sell
I
it,
want to.
not for a joyride.
I just don't know
They
where to
just
start.
wanted it. Their plan was as simple as it was flawed. They snuck into a field where a balloon was tethered for the night, probably giggling to themselves like a couple of kids stealing
What's
a garden
this?
gnome. They managed to untie the ropes, and with a gentle whoosh, their giant, colorful getaway vehicle began its silent ascent into the night sky. For a few minutes, they must have felt like absolute kings. They were pirates of the sky, floating majestically above the sleeping world, masters of their
They
own
stole a
destiny.
hot air balloon.
They had successfully stolen something the size of a small house, and no one could stop them. But their brilliant aviation career had one tiny oversight. Hot air balloons do not have steering wheels. They do not have brakes. They are essentially giant, fancy plastic bags that go wherever the wind tells them to go. And on this particular night, the wind was in a darkly comedic mood. As they drifted aimlessly through the darkness, they failed to notice a looming obstacle, a spiderweb of high-voltage power lines stretching across the landscape like a trap set by a very patient god of electricity. The balloon drifted directly into the wires. There was a bright flash, a loud buzz, and suddenly, their silent, majestic journey came to an abrupt, sizzling halt. The balloon became hopelessly entangled, its flammable nylon fabric draped over thousands of volts of live current. Their perfect crime had ended with them trapped in a giant, self-made bug zapper, suspended high above the ground. When the authorities found them the next morning,
I've been in a hot air balloon before.
they were a permanent part of the local power grid, a tragic and brightly lit monument to the idea that
Bonnie
just
Blue.
because you
No, I
steal
haven't.
something
I have to
doesn't
look
mean you
into
have
that.
any
No.
idea what to do with
Sounds
it.
interesting.
7. The ultimate joyride. This is a tale that starts as a
For my
complete and
13th
ends
birthday,
as
I
a public
wasn't.
service
I got a
announcement
hot air
where
balloon
your
ride
seatbelt.
as a present.
Our story
It was
begins
fun.
with a 20-year-old who's already having a pretty bad day. He's been pulled over for speeding, which is a bummer. And he's been pulled over for speeding in a stolen car, which is a significantly bigger bummer.
Yeah.
Police cuff him and put him in the back of their patrol car. For most people, this is game over. You sit there, you contemplate your life choices, you wait for the ride to the station. But our hero, he wasn't most people. He was an innovator, a problem solver. While the officers had their backs turned, he managed to do something straight out of a movie. He slipped his handcuffed hands from behind his back to his front. Then, like a determined snake, he wriggled his way through the tiny partitions separating the back seat from the front. He was now in the driver's seat of the police cruiser. He saw his chance and he took it. He slammed the car into drive and peeled out, leaving two very surprised police officers standing in his dust. He was now in a high-speed chase against the very police car he was driving. He led them on a wild 90-mile-per-hour joyride, weaving through traffic, probably feeling like the star of Grand Theft Auto. The police,
That was a good game, by the way.
their own stolen vehicle, eventually had enough. An officer performed a pit maneuver, a tactical move to spin the car out of control. It worked perfectly. The stolen cruiser spun out and began to roll, over and over, in a violent cloud of dirt and broken glass. And this is where our protagonist made his final and most fatal mistake.
I'm deeply involved with this now.
Leading the chase, he had forgotten
You tell.
one simple thing that every driver's ed instructor tells you to do.
I would absolutely, that would be an honor
Ejected from the rolling
to be
vehicle
in
and
something
dived
like that.
into
That
the
would be,
He had managed to pull off an escape
that would be
so
the best
audacious,
birthday present
so
ever.
daring. It was almost brilliant. But he was ultimately defeated not by the police, but by a simple piece of nylon webbing he was too busy to click into place.
I'm trying to think if I've ever had a better birthday present than somebody making me a
Let
star.
me tell you about a level of stubbornness so pure, so powerful, it could probably bend steel.
Well, I did have cheesecake at Estelle Getty's grave, so
Spit in its eye
don't know.
and demanded a
I'll be
refund.
right up there with that.
Our hero finds himself in the middle of Death Valley. Not near Death Valley. Smack dab in the middle of it, where the sun cooks the ground. for about
Yes,
20
I am an
minutes,
only child.
And the air is so dry it can suck the moisture right out of your soul.
Before I
This
came
man,
out to
his
my
trusted
parents,
steed, is stuck,
I literally got
dead.
anything and everything I wanted. I had 3 claw machines
By
in
some
my
absolute
parents'
miracle,
house.
a group of rescue trainees on a field of exercise finds him after 6 full days. He's dehydrated, delirious, but alive. They're his guardian angels. They rescue him, give him water,
But,
and bring him back to civilization. A happy ending, right?
Targus TV, tell me more.
Death in the face and won. But here's where the story takes a hard left turn into Crazy Town. Back in safety, all this guy
In fact, I'll give you my
his
business
abandoned,
email
probably
address. It's
already half buried in sand.
thehornyhomemaker@gmail.com. Send me an email with the details. I am deeply
So
interested.
he does the unthinkable. He hitches another ride back into the valley. The driver, probably thinking this dude is insane, agrees to drop him off about 15 miles from where the van is stuck.
And you know, I really love
Gets out
those
of the
mashed
car,
potato
gives a
flakes.
thumbs up, and sets off on what can only be described as a suicide mission. No map, no GPS, and the kicker, no water. He's planning to walk 15 miles across a literal frying pan, one of the hottest places on Earth, with absolutely zero supplies, fueled by nothing but pure, uncut spite. You have to wonder what was going through his head. Did he think the desert would just respect his determination and let him pass? Did
I'm
he think
tired
he
as
learned its
hell.
secrets in his first near-death experience? The desert, however, does not negotiate. It doesn't admire your grit. It's a patient, indifferent
Should I
killer.
sleep or should
His
I
body was
eat?
found 3 days later. He never made it to the van. He had been given a winning lottery ticket, a second chance at life, and he decided
What
to
is
trade it in
today's
for a
date?
dusty, worthless piece of metal. Nine.
Yeah, tomorrow is my
Start
birthday.
of the new millennium. This is a story that proves even a world-class education
I'll be damned.
can't protect you from a moment of high voltage.
I'll be
stupidity.
35 tomorrow.
We're on the Las Vegas Strip, New Year's Eve, 1999. The energy is electric, the crowd is buzzing, and
Yep.
everyone is ready to party their way into the 21st century. Our protagonist is a 26-year-old Stanford graduate, a guy with a brain so big, you'd think it would come with its own warning label.
Oh,
He
shit.
decided to turn off his brain and turn on the spectacle. He wanted the best view of the midnight fireworks, a vantage point that would put him above the teeming masses. So
And
he
this
looks
shirt
around,
is hot as
bypasses
hell.
the designated viewing areas, and picks his spot, the top of a streetlight.
And
While thousands of people cheered below,
I thought
he
this
began his
concert was
ascent,
gonna be at.
scaling the metal pole like a drunken
So my
squirrel.
thoughts on that, on what you said, yeah, definitely, absolutely, positively. Most certainly. A star with his own animatronic room. I like it. You approve? She approves. This room is so cool, like, in the night. I love this. And when the kitchen light's on and I have all the lights on in the house, it kind of takes the effect away. Yeah, that's better. That's now it's popping. Yeah, my kitchen. And there's Santa chilling in the closet. That's kind of creepy. Yeah, that is creepy. I don't like that. That's creepy as hell. They're just sitting. Ooh. Yeah, that's kind of creepy though. Pardon me. Gotta get a big spoon. No, but I do have a fog machine. I need fog juice though. Hey, Slug. Why is she looking at the ringmaster? Why is Emily looking at the ringmaster? Hmm. Why does it look like his body's moving? Does it look like his body's moving? You know, yeah, his face does take the form of an old man. That's exactly what the fuck I said before. Oh my god, somebody else finally saw that. Yeah, I've seen his face look like an old man too before. Holy shit. Yeah, we ain't gonna be sticking around this room now.
An accident and hired a friend who can't tell the brake from the gas. Or the guy who pulled off a perfect escape, only to be defeated by a seatbelt. One is a failure of teamwork. The other is a failure of basic self-preservation. I want to see absolute chaos in the comments. Defend your choice. And if this video gave you a new appreciation for your own decision-making skills, smash that like button. Subscribe. So you
Yeah, my place is a bit haunted.
Every action has a consequence. Usually it's small, but today we're studying 10 people whose final action had a consequence.
And I'm eating mashed potatoes.
Permanent. This is
Out of the bag. Flakes.
It's a high-speed physics lesson where the final grade is pass or fail, and there are no retakes. These are really cool results. This video is a graphic demonstration of what not to do. 1. The tale of the DIY dentist who performed his own and final extraction is a story that proves the internet can be a very dangerous place, especially when it convinces you that you're a qualified surgeon after watching one 10-minute YouTube tutorial. Our protagonist was a man who saw conspiracies everywhere. From the government, the media, and most importantly for our story, the entire medical establishment. He believed that doctors and dentists were just glorified salespeople, pushing unnecessary treatments and expensive drugs. He developed a severe raging toothache, a molar in the back of his mouth that felt like a tiny demon was doing construction work on his jaw. He wasn't about to go to a dentist. That was for sheep. He was a free thinker, a man who believed in taking matters into his own hands. His plan was a beautiful, terrifying symphony of rugged individualism and breathtaking stupidity. He was going to perform his own dental surgery in his garage. His surgical tools were not scalpels and precision drills. They were a pair of rusty old pliers from his toolbox. His anesthetic wasn't a carefully measured dose of Novocaine. It was a half-empty bottle of cheap whiskey. He probably took a few healthy swigs for courage, the fiery liquid a poor substitute for actual pain relief, and got to work. He stood in front of a dusty mirror, his mouth pried open, the pliers in his hand, and began to fish around for the offending molar. It was probably a gruesome, bloody, and incredibly painful process. But he was determined. He was a warrior, battling the phantom menace of modern dentistry. After what must have felt like an eternity of grunting, sweating, and probably a fair bit of screaming, he succeeded. He managed to get a solid grip on the tooth. He twisted, he pulled, and with a sickening crunch that echoed in the quiet garage, the tooth came free.
I'm gonna tell you why I enjoy these like this, but I'm only gonna say it once because it's a very embarrassing fact about myself. When I was a kid and I had goldfish and a fish tank full of fish, and I was a kid, I used to eat the fish food, and this tastes like the fish food. And I did, and I'm not gonna lie, I did enjoy the taste of it. And well, this is the closest thing I can get to it, while still being socially acceptable.
Which he had used as an anesthetic, was also a blood thinner, making the situation exponentially worse.
So that's why I eat this.
He had successfully removed his tooth, but in the process, he had created a much, much bigger problem that his pliers and his whiskey couldn't solve. He had been so determined to prove that he didn't need a doctor, that he ended up creating a situation where
put food coloring in it.
highly trained surgeons could have possibly saved him. Two. The story of the man who decided to weaponize his vacuum.
Because it is just like it. It looks just like it. Except for the fish food is brightly colored.
That is both incredibly clever and catastrophically, biblically stupid. Our scene is a quiet, suburban home in Arizona. Our hero, a man who saw himself as a bit of a DIY genius, had a problem. A buzzing, angry, and potentially painful problem. A large beehive had taken up residence under his back porch. Now, a normal person would call a beekeeper. But our hero was not a normal
I bet this would make some good
He
Christmas
saw this as an
now.
opportunity to innovate. He looked at the hive, then at his trusty, powerful shop vac, and a
Make some good fake snow out of this.
He wasn't going to spray the bees. He was going to inhale them. His plan was to use the immense suction of his vacuum cleaner to suck up the entire hive, bees and all. It was a clean, chemical-free,
What is this?
and in his mind, humane solution. So he put his plan into action. He ran a long extension cord, fired up the shop vac, and with the roar of a jet engine, he began his assault. And it worked. It worked beautifully. He successfully sucked up the entire hive. Thousands of angry, confused, and now very compressed bees into the canister of his vacuum cleaner. He probably stood back, admiring his work, feeling like a modern-day Ghostbuster. He had won. The bee problem was solved. But now he had a new problem. A vacuum cleaner full of thousands of very, very angry bees. What do you do with that? He decided to just put it away. He unplugged the shop vac, dragged it inside, and stored it in a small enclosed kitchen closet. Probably thinking he'd deal with the bee-filled canister later. Later that night, his wife, completely unaware that the Hoover in the closet had become a buzzing, vibrating prison for an entire swarm of furious insects, decided to do a little light cleaning. She noticed some spilled sugar on the kitchen floor. She went to the closet, pulled out the shop vac, and plugged it in. The moment she flipped the on switch, two things happened. First, the powerful motor roared to life, creating a cyclonic vortex inside the canister. Second, and more importantly, the vacuum's exhaust port, which is usually just for blowing out warm air, became a cannon, a bee cannon. The entire furious, sugar-crazed swarm was blasted out of the exhaust port in a single, biblical plague of buzzing, stinging rage.
Mm.
They filled the small, enclosed kitchen in an instant, a swirling, angry tornado of vengeance. They had been sucked up, trapped, and then suddenly blasted into a room that smelled like their favorite food. They were not in a good mood. The couple was found the next day, a tragic testament to a pest control plan that was perfectly executed, right up until the moment it wasn't.
Wow.
3. The burglar who was defeated by a
That was wild.
is a classic story of criminal miscalculation, a tale that proves that sometimes the biggest obstacle to a successful heist isn't a high-tech alarm system, but a simple plastic flapped hole in the door. Our protagonist is a burglar in Belgium, a man who was probably very good at some parts of his job, but, as it turns out, very, very bad at estimating his own physical dimensions.
Mm.
He had targeted a house, but was having trouble getting in. The windows were locked, the doors were solid, but then he saw it. His way in. A small, unassuming doggy door at the bottom of the back door. To him, it wasn't an exit for a poodle. It was an entrance for a professional. He probably thought, I'm skinny enough, I can make that. So he got down on his hands and knees and began his daring and deeply undignified infiltration.
Mm.
He pushed
When I
ahead.
was 2 years old, I got stuck in a dog door at my grandmother's house.
He managed to get his shoulders through. He was halfway there. He was in. But then he hit a snag. A big snag. His hips or his chest.
Matter of fact, that
Or
was
maybe
her
just his
favorite
own
picture of me.
inflated sense of his own slimness. He got stuck. Hopelessly, utterly, and comically stuck. He was wedged in the doggy door, halfway in and halfway out, unable to move forward, unable to move backward. He was a human cork in a dog-sized bottle.
Mm-hmm.
His
I know how that
probably
feels.
turned to a dawning, claustrophobic panic. But his situation
I
was
was
about to
too.
get so much worse. As he was wriggling and struggling, he attracted the attention of the homeowner. And the homeowner was a beautiful, but very large and very territorial Doberman Pinscher.
Oh boy. Hmm.
The dog, probably woken from a pleasant nap, trotted over to the back door to see what all the commotion was about. And there, in its own personal doorway, it found a brand new, very interesting, and very conveniently trapped chew toy.
Oh god.
It was a burglar's worst nightmare. The dog probably tilted its head, confused for a moment, and then decided this was the best day of its life. It had a captive audience, or more accurately, a captive meal.
Yeah, this meal.
We don't know exactly what happened in the next few hours. The police report was likely a masterpiece of clinical understatement, probably using words like extensive injuries and defensive wounds. But let's just say the Doberman was not interested in a friendly game of fetch. Our burglar had been so focused on getting into the house that he never stopped to consider who or what might already be living there.
Mm-hmm.
And his final fatal mistake was choosing a point of entry that made him the perfect stationary target for the home's very effective four-legged security system.
Mm.
And just to add one final brutal footnote to his failed career, let's just say that whatever the dog did, it was thorough enough to ensure that he wouldn't just be removed from society, but from the gene pool, permanently.
Hence the Darwins.
There are certain household problems that whisper, call a professional. And then there are problems that scream it, like a backed up septic system. But
I do
for
want to
him in
watch my other
Texas,
favorite shows
the
real
screams
quick.
of reason were
When this
drowned
is
out
over,
by the proud,
I'm watching Ghosts.
confident voice of his own inner DIY genius. He had a stubborn clog, a serious blockage somewhere in the dark, mysterious underworld of his home's plumbing. Instead of calling a plumber, an act he probably saw as a sign of weakness and a waste of good money, he decided to wage his own personal war on the clog. His approach was not one of finesse. It was one of overwhelming chemical and pyrotechnic force.
Pyro.
He went to the store and bought the most powerful, most corrosive drain cleaner he could find. The kind with a skull and crossbones on the label that's probably illegal in several countries.
Mm.
He poured the entire gallon down the toilet. When that didn't immediately solve the problem, he decided to escalate. He then poured a gallon of industrial-strength bleach down the toilet as well.
Oh.
What our amateur chemists didn't know is that when you mix drain cleaner, which is often ammonia-based, with bleach, you create a chemical reaction that releases a dense, choking cloud of toxic chloramine gas. The bathroom was now a makeshift gas chamber, but he wasn't done. The clog was still there, mocking him. he decided it was time to bring in the heavy artillery.
Oh, fuck.
For good measure, he was going to try to dislodge the clog with a lit road flare. His logic was probably
What
that
a
the intense
buffoon.
heat and light would somehow scare the clog away. We may never know. He stood in the bathroom, now filled with toxic, invisible gas, and lit the flare, its brilliant red flame cutting through the chemical haze.
Mm-hmm.
He dropped the hissing, sputtering flare into the toilet bowl.
What a moron.
He introduced an open flame into a small, enclosed space filled with not only toxic gas, but also a highly concentrated cloud of flammable methane sewer gas, which had been backing up from the clog. The result was not a small pop. It was a massive, instantaneous, and catastrophically powerful explosion. The toilet, which had been the focus of his rage, was launched upwards with the force of a rocket, taking our hero, who was standing directly over it, along for the ride.
Oh my god.
The blast of the bathroom blew the roof clean off and sent him on a brief one-way trip to the heavens. He had been so determined to clear a clog that he
Blew the
had
roof
cleared
off.
his entire bathroom and himself from the property. He had successfully solved his plumbing problem. He just wasn't around to flush. 5.
Huh.
The story of the backyard astronaut who built a rocket with a one-way ticket is a tale that perfectly captures the glorious, childlike dream of space travel and the brutal, adult reality of what happens when you forget to plan for the landing. Our protagonist was an amateur rocket enthusiast, a man who saw the stars not as distant points of light, but as a destination. He wasn't content to just build small model rockets. He wanted to build the real thing. In his backyard, he spent years constructing his masterpiece, a massive, powerful rocket, a gleaming testament to his passion and his frankly terrifying lack of professional oversight. But he wasn't just going to launch it. That was for NASA. He was going to ride it. He designed a special open-air platform, essentially a small metal chair, which he welded to the side of the rocket. This was his command module, his cockpit.
A backyard
The day
rocket.
of the launch arrived. He invited his friends and family to witness his historic flight.
How stupid.
He put on a helmet, strapped himself into his chair, and with a triumphant wave, he initiated the countdown. The rocket engine roared to life, shaking the very ground, and with a massive plume of fire and smoke, it lifted off. And it worked. It worked perfectly. The rocket shot into the sky, a beautiful, majestic testament to his engineering skills. He was soaring, climbing higher and higher, the world shrinking below him.
Hmm.
He was an astronaut, a pioneer, a man touching the face of God on a throne of his own creation.
Well, something's gotta go
Probably felt
wrong.
A sense of pure, unadulterated ecstasy, the ultimate thrill. But as he reached the apex of his flight, several thousand feet in the air, a small, critical, and entirely overlooked design flaw in his plan became apparent. He had spent years designing a system to get him up. He had spent zero time designing a system to get him down.
Oh.
There was no way to detach his platform from the rocket. There was no parachute. There was no escape plan. He had designed a perfect ascent module, but had completely forgotten about the whole return to Earth part of the equation. As the rocket's fuel was spent, it began its inevitable, silent, and very fast descent. He was no longer an astronaut. He was a passenger on a multi-hundred-pound lawn dart, and his own backyard was the bullseye. He achieved an impressive altitude, a personal best that no one could ever take away from him. But his return to Earth, at a speed that is politely referred to as terminal velocity, was a brutal and very final reminder that in rocketry, as in life, it's not just about the launch, it's about sticking the landing. 6. The tale of the rooster who was a very slow learner, and then a very fast teacher, is a grim story from the dark and frankly bizarre world of illegal cockfighting.
Oh, I heard about this
when you
one.
try to bully a creature into being something it's not. Our hero was a man who fancied himself a big shot in the local cockfighting scene. He had a rooster, a prize-winning bird that was beautiful, healthy, but had one fatal flaw in its owner's eyes. It was a lover, not a fighter. It was a
I love the
docile,
Darwins.
peaceful creature, more interested in pecking at corn than in tearing another bird to shreds. And this infuriated its owner. He saw not a gentle animal, but a failed investment, a feathered coward that was embarrassing him. He decided the rooster didn't need more training. It needed to be toughened up. It needed to learn to be aggressive. And his method for teaching this lesson was pure, unadulterated cruelty. He decided he would train the rooster by repeatedly poking it, prodding it, and tormenting it with a long, sharpened stick. Day after day, he would go into the rooster's pen and jab at the poor creature, trying to provoke a response, trying to awaken some dormant, killer instinct. The rooster, for the most part, just tried to avoid him. But on this particular day, our trainer was more persistent, more aggressive than usual. He cornered the rooster and continued his relentless poking and prodding. And the rooster, a creature that had endured days of torment, finally reached its breaking point. Something inside its tiny bird brain snapped.
Tiny bird
It was
brain.
no longer a peaceful farm animal. It was a cornered, furious beast. With a wild, guttural squawk, it flew at him in a feathered explosion of pure rage. The man, who was probably laughing just a second before, was caught completely off guard by the sudden, violent counterattack. He stumbled backward in surprise, trying to fend off the bird, which was now a flurry of pecking beak and slashing spurs. He tripped over his own feet and fell, landing hard on his back. And in a moment of beautiful, karmic, and exquisitely painful irony, he fell directly onto the very same sharpened stick he had been using to torment the rooster. The stick, now braced against the hard ground, impaled him. He lay there, pinned to the earth by his own instrument of cruelty, the rooster probably standing triumphantly on his chest. He had wanted to teach his rooster how to be a killer. And in the end, he succeeded.
Huh.
He just didn't realize he was going to be the final exam. The story of the joyrider who was thrown by his own pitch is a beautiful, if tragic, physics lesson in the concept of equal and opposite reactions. A cautionary
God,
tale
I can't put
sometimes
those mashed
the most
potatoes
dangerous
on
weapon
something
you have
good.
is your own momentum. Our story unfolds on a quiet suburban street in Ohio late at night. Our protagonist, a young man whom we'll call Kevin, was out with his friends, engaging in that timeless, idiotic pastime of bored youth, mailbox baseball. They were cruising along in a beat-up minivan, taking turns leaning out the window and hurling rocks at mailboxes, cars, and anything else that looked like it would make a satisfying thwack. But Kevin was not satisfied. He was a competitor, an artist. He felt that the confines of the passenger side window were limiting his performance.
My spoon is buried in my potatoes.
The windup, the full, powerful arc he needed to achieve maximum destructive potential. He needed more room to operate. And then, a brilliant, fatally athletic idea struck him.
What the hell is
He
this?
decided to slide open the minivan's large, heavy side door. This would give him an unrestricted, panoramic field of fire. He would be like a waist gunner on a World War II bomber. Only his bombs were rocks and his targets were the mailboxes of innocent, sleeping suburbanites. His friends, probably too drunk or too stupid to object, thought this was a great idea. So as they were cruising down the street at about 30 miles per hour, Kevin slid the heavy door open with a satisfying rumble. The wind rushed in, a thrilling, chaotic roar. He felt alive, a true warrior of petty vandalism. He reached back, grabbing a particularly large, hefty rock from their ammo pile. This was going to be his masterpiece. He planted his feet, wound up like a major league pitcher about to throw a no-hitter, and with a mighty primal grunt, he unleashed the rock. And in that exact moment, Sir Isaac Newton, who had been patiently waiting in the wings, decided to make a grand entrance.
Huh.
Kevin had put all of his strength, all of his momentum, into that powerful forward and sideways throw. And as the law of conservation of momentum dictates, for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction.
Mm.
The powerful, outward force of his own throw acted like a giant invisible hand, and it propelled him, with beautiful, flawless, and entirely predictable physics, directly out of the open door of the moving minivan. He went from being the pitcher to being the ball. He sailed through the air for a brief, probably very surprising moment, before landing with a sickening thud on the hard, unforgiving pavement. He had been so focused on launching his weapon that he had inadvertently turned himself into a projectile.
Huh.
His friends, their joyride suddenly turning into a horror movie, slammed on the brakes. But it was too late. He had been taken out by his own, perfectly executed, weaponized momentum. 8. The story of the man who fixed a 25-cent problem with a 12-gauge solution is a masterpiece of backwoods engineering, a cautionary tale that proves that if the only tool you have is a shotgun, every problem starts to look like a target. Our story takes us to a dusty road in North Carolina, where a man was having a bad day. His old, beat-up pickup truck had died. After a few minutes of
They
frustrated
said
thinking,
dusty as I
he
was
diagnosed
dusting
the problem.
myself. Well,
A blown fuse. A simple 25-cent piece of metal and plastic had brought his entire 2-ton machine to a grinding halt. He rummaged through his glove box. No spare fuses. He was stranded. Now, a normal person might try to flag down a passing car or maybe just walk to the nearest auto parts store. But our hero was not a normal person. He was a problem solver, an innovator, a man who saw rules not as laws, but as gentle suggestions. He needed to complete the circuit in the fuse box. He needed something that was roughly the right size and could conduct electricity. And as he sat there, stewing in his own frustration, his eyes landed on the box of shotgun shells sitting on his passenger seat.
oh God.
And in a moment of pure, unfiltered backwoods genius, an idea was born. A 12-gauge shotgun shell was roughly the same size as the blown fuse.
Oh
And it was
my
made of
God.
It would fit
A
perfectly.
redneck mixing electricity and bullets.
It was, in his mind, the perfect off-label solution. He took one of the live brass and plastic shells, filled with gunpowder and lead pellets, and went to the fuse box. He popped out the dead fuse, and, with the confident precision of a man who is about to make a huge mistake, he
You
jammed the
think?
live shotgun shell into the empty slot. It was a perfect, snug fit. He probably stood back for a second to admire his handiwork, a proud, resourceful innovator.
I wouldn't
who
be
had just
sitting
saved
back to
himself
admire
a mess.
handiwork. I'd be sitting back with
He had
something else.
fixed it. He got back in his truck, a triumphant grin on his face, and turned the key in the ignition. And in that instant, the electrical circuit did exactly what it was designed to do. It sent a powerful 12-volt current directly into his improvised, highly explosive fuse. The electrical charge was more than enough to activate the primer in the base of the shotgun shell. The shell didn't just conduct electricity, it detonated. The fuse box, which was located directly in front of the driver's seat, exploded with the force of a small grenade, sending a blast of hot gas, plastic shrapnel, and lead pellets directly into the cab of the truck and into our hero. He had successfully completed the circuit. He had solved his 25-cent problem. He had just turned it into a very final, very loud, and very permanent solution that also happened to solve all of his other problems, like breathing and having a mortgage. The fisherman who declared war on sharks and ended up chumming the water with himself is a story that comes to us from the sun-drenched, predator-filled waters of Florida.
How I knew it was
Powerful lesson
Florida.
in the importance of respecting the food chain, especially when you're floating on top of it in a small plastic boat. Our protagonist was an avid fisherman, a man who loved the thrill of the catch. But he had a
I knew it
recurring
was
problem,
Florida all
a
along.
persistent toothy
They
nemesis
said
that was
water.
ruining his
They said
hobby.
animals.
Sharks. They kept
Ding,
stealing
ding,
his
ding.
fish right off the line, a bold and infuriating act of underwater piracy. He was fed up. This was no longer about fishing. This was a matter of principle. He decided to fight back. He wasn't just going to use a bigger hook. He was going to bring a gun to a fish fight. He went out and bought a bang stick, a specialized pole-mounted device that is essentially an underwater shotgun. It's a long pole with a firing mechanism at the end that holds a shotgun shell, and it's designed to fire on contact. It is a very effective and very dangerous tool for deterring sharks. A few days later, he was out in his small boat, and it happened again. He had a big fish on the line, and a shark moved in to steal it. But this time, he was ready. As the shark grabbed his catch, our hero, filled with a sense of righteous fury, grabbed his bang stick. He leaned far over the side of his small, wobbly boat, and with a triumphant, vengeful cry, he jabbed the bang stick at the shark. The device worked perfectly. The moment it made contact with the shark, the shotgun shell fired with a muffled underwater boom. But our hero, in his moment of triumphant revenge, had completely failed to account for a little thing called recoil. The powerful backward thrust of the underwater explosion was far stronger than he had anticipated. The recoil from the bang stick was so powerful it threw him completely off balance. He teetered for a moment on the edge of his small boat, and then, with a comical windmilling of his arms, he fell overboard, landing with a massive splash directly into the water that was now filled with the blood of his fish and the very angry, and probably now very confused, shark. He was now swimming in his own, personally created, shark-attracting chum slip, surrounded by the very predators he had been trying to deter. He had successfully won his battle against the one shark, but in doing so, he had just rung the dinner bell for every other shark in a 5-mile radius. His quest to protect his catch had ended with him becoming the main course. 10. The story of the man who tried to save 30 seconds and ended up spending the rest of his life is a grim and brutally efficient lesson in workplace safety. A cautionary tale that proves that safety protocols are not written by management to annoy you. They are written in the blood of people who thought they knew a better way. Our story takes place on a busy construction site in China. Our protagonist is a worker, a man who was probably very good at his job, but who had developed a healthy contempt for what he saw as time-consuming safety rules. His tool for the day was an industrial nail gun, a powerful, high-pressure pneumatic device designed to fire 3-inch nails into solid wood with the force of a bullet. He was working along when the gun jammed, a common enough occurrence. The safety protocol for clearing a jam was simple, clear, and non-negotiable. Step 1. Disconnect the high-pressure air hose. Step 2. Then, and only then, attempt to clear the jam. It was a rule designed to prevent a very specific and very final kind of accident. But our hero looked at the air hose. Disconnecting it would take time. He'd have to walk back to the compressor, bleed the line, and then reconnect it all. It would take a whole 30, maybe even 45 seconds. He decided that was too long. He had a shortcut. A better, faster way. He decided he would just clear the jam with the hose still connected, with the gun still fully pressurized and ready to fire. He flipped the gun over, and in a moment of pure, unadulterated, catastrophic stupidity, he stared directly down the barrel to see what the problem was. He saw the bent nail stuck in the chamber. He then took out a screwdriver and began to poke and prod at the jammed nail, trying to dislodge it. He was, in effect, staring down the barrel of a loaded gun and poking the trigger with a stick. As he was poking, the jammed nail suddenly came free. The gun's firing mechanism, which had been held back by the jam, was now cleared. The immense pent-up pressure in the airline was instantly released, and the gun did what it was designed to do. It fired. The 3-inch hardened steel nail was launched from the barrel with incredible force, traveling the very short, very direct distance from the tip of the gun to our hero's eye. His attempt to save 30 seconds of his workday had ended up costing him everything else. He had been so focused on saving a tiny amount of time that he had overlooked the one simple rule that was designed to save his life. Okay, you're the judge and jury. Of all the catastrophically bad decisions you saw today, which one deserves to be crowned the absolute dumbest? I'm not looking for the funniest. I'm looking for the one that made you genuinely question the survival of our species. Cast your vote and defend your verdict in the comments.
I think the last one.
If you appreciate the verdict, sentence that like button. Subscribe
Who
for
the
next
fuck
war
doesn't
session.
just connect
Ever
something
watch
that's
someone
like
make a
that?
choice so bad you almost feel the secondhand brain damage? These aren't near misses. These are 10 real people
Every
who treated
fucking
danger like
day
a
of my life.
reality didn't even blink. No slow build, just pure, unfiltered stupidity meeting its finish line. Let's get straight to it. 1. The Exterminator. Tell me you hate spiders without actually saying it. Our story kicks off in a Seattle laundry room, a place of lost socks and questionable fabric softener scents. Our protagonist, let's call him Kevin, spots his nemesis, a tiny 8-legged freeloader chilling by the dryer vent. Now, a normal person might reach for a shoe, a paper towel, or maybe even just sigh and let the spider live its tiny life. But Kevin? Kevin saw this not as a
Oh
pest
my
control
god.
issue, but as a declaration of war. He decided to skip all conventional methods and go straight to the nuclear.
He made a
option.
flamethrower in his
A
laundry
DIY
room.
flamethrower, fashioned from a can of spray paint and a Bic lighter. In his mind, this was a moment of pure action hero genius.
I'm sorry, I am like addicted to the Darwins. I love the Darwins.
A gentle test puff. A satisfying whoosh, and a brief jet of fire shot out. It felt powerful, heroic even. In that moment, he wasn't just some guy in a laundry room. He was a dragon slayer. With his confidence soaring and his common sense clocking out for the day, He aimed under the washing machine where the spider had scurried. He began painting the air with fiery orange arcs, like a pyromaniac artist signing his masterpiece. The spider, understandably panicked, zigzagged left. Kevin, with the grim determination of a Terminator, followed its every move. There was a faint singe, a crisping sound, and a smell that could only be described as barbecue with deep regrets. Victory? Not quite. Because while Kevin was celebrating his conquest, the laws of thermodynamics were preparing a counterattack. He kept the flame going, just in case the spider had backup. Meanwhile, the aerosol can in his hand was getting uncomfortably warm. The pressurized propellant inside was getting agitated. All around him, years of accumulated lint, nature's perfect kindling, lay waiting in every nook and cranny. The room started to fill with a hazy smoke. He coughed, waved a hand in front of his face, but kept cooking. Then, the can made a soft ping sound, like it was clearing its throat before making an important announcement. Kevin, lost in his victory, fired off one more fiery salvo. That was the last straw. The can went from warm to, oh dear God, in a nanosecond.
Oh, dear
The ping
God.
became a sharp pop, which immediately escalated into a concussive thump as the can exploded. For a brief, brilliant moment, the laundry room hosted a new sun. Plastic storage bins on the shelves sagged like dolly clocks. Detergent jugs melted, weeping neon blue tears.
Huh.
The dryer's flexible vent tube became a silver dragon, spitting fire and superheated gas directly into the wall cavity. Fire loves an easy path, and Kevin had just given it a VIP lane. He snapped out of his stupor and grabbed the sink's sprayer, weakly misting the inferno as if it were a delicate orchid. The fire laughed.
Huh.
He threw a damp towel at it. The towel hissed, steamed, and promptly joined the enemy side.
Oh, God.
The smoke was thick now, black and angry. His eyebrows had officially resigned. He fumbled for his phone, realizing that calling 911 was an idea he should have had about 10 minutes and one explosion ago. Fire crews arrived to find him on the floor, the epicenter of his own failed science experiment, having learned the hard way that when the threat fits under your shoe, you probably shouldn't summon a dragon to kill it. 2. The Bear Grylls. Wannabe. Here's a pop quiz for you. And the fact that anyone gets this wrong is why we have these stories. You see a wild black bear on a trail in North Carolina. Your options are: A. Keep a respectful, safe distance, maybe snap a photo with your zoom lens and feel lucky for the rare sighting. Or B. Sprint towards it for a once-in-a-lifetime selfie because your social media feed is hungry. Our main character, a guy we'll call Brad.
I would say A, mine is
button like
snapping
he
a
was trying to win
picture.
prize. He immediately flipped his phone to the front-facing camera, grinned with the unearned confidence of a man who thinks wildlife is just a suggestion, and started jogging towards the bear. All around him were signs, literal signs posted by the Park Service, with clear text and pictures saying, "Do not approach wildlife." A park ranger was within shouting distance. Other families were wisely backing away, pulling their kids close. But not Brad. He was in the zone, narrating his own demise for his followers. "Guys, you are not gonna believe this," he said into his phone, completely oblivious.
Huh.
The bear, which had been minding its own business, stood up on its hind legs to get a better look. This was not an invitation for a hug. This is bear stood for, "What is this idiot doing in my personal space?" Brad, a master of misinterpretation, took this as encouragement. He threw up a peace sign for the camera and sidestepped to get the perfect angle, putting the bear right over his shoulder.
Ah,
He was now
another
closer to the
flower.
edge of the world, deep inside the zone where bad things happen. The bear had seen enough. It dropped back onto all fours, pivoted, and closed the distance faster than any autofocus could keep up. Brad's triumphant grin evaporated. He froze,
Whoa.
his brain finally catching up to the situation about 5 seconds too late.
Huh.
Then he turned and ran. It was a valiant, if pathetic, effort. Nature, however, is faster.
Uh-huh.
He tripped on a tree root, because of course there was a tree root, and his phone went sailing into a patch of ferns, dutifully recording a shaky view of the sky. The other tourists screamed. The ranger, now in full emergency mode, clapped and shouted, trying to make himself big and loud to break the bear's charge. It was a short, one-sided negotiation about personal boundaries, and the bear was not interested in mediation. The park staff intervened, managing to distract the animal, which sauntered off with an annoyed swagger, clearly inconvenienced by the whole affair. Brad, however, was not hopping up to brush himself off and post a witty caption. He was down, seriously injured, and about to become the star of an incident report that read like a checklist of every safety rule he had ignored.
Huh.
The lesson here is brutally simple. Wild means wild. A bear is not a prop for your clout-chasing adventure.
Uh-huh.
It's a powerful animal, and the only content you should be creating near one is the
Though I
content
don't
you
know, I know a
only
lot
get
of
too
people
close.
who should be
1 second shortcut.
pulling their fun out for a
Factories are
bear.
temples of routine. Every day the same belts hum, the same motors purr, and the same safety posters smile down with a friendly but firm reminder.
Mm-hmm.
Lockout, tagout saves lives. Our story takes place in Michigan, where a veteran line worker, we'll call him Jay, had worked the same line for 15 years. He'd seen 1,000 minor jams and hiccups, so when a cardboard carton twisted sideways and jammed the conveyor belt near a protective guard, it was just another Tuesday. The line stopped. The supervisor started pacing, stressed about quotas. And Jay, who hated waiting more than anything, uttered the 7 most dangerous words in any industrial setting. Don't worry, I'll just be quick. The safety protocol was crystal clear, drilled into him through countless training sessions. Step 1, kill the power to the machine. Step 2, lock the power source with your personal padlock. Step 3, tag it with your name. It's a process that takes, at most, 60 seconds. But 60 seconds felt like an eternity to Jay. The momentum of the workday was a powerful force, whispering in his ear that rules were for rookies. So he made a decision. He reached under the metal guard, intending to just flick the box loose with his hand. His worn work jacket had a slightly loose cuff, a detail that seemed insignificant until that very moment. As his hand touched the box, the automated system, sensing the blockage was almost clear, pulsed the belt forward. It wasn't even a full start, just a micro adjustment. But it was enough. The cuff of his sleeve caught on a roller. The machine, with its relentless torque, bit down and pulled. Jay yanked back instinctively, but it was like arguing with a tectonic plate. A coworker screamed his name. Another lunged for the big red emergency stop button, slamming it with heroic force. But even with the power cut, physics has its own momentum. The heavy rollers continued to coast for one long, agonizing second that felt like an hour. It was a tug of war where one side was a half-ton of steel and gears, and the other side was Jay. It was never a fair fight. There's no need for gruesome details here, only the cold, unforgiving math of inches, seconds, and one terrible choice. The subsequent investigation would state the obvious. Failure to de-energize equipment, guard bypassed, inadequate lockout procedure. The company installed new, more advanced safety
Here's
systems.
the needles in my hand.
But the most important safety system of all, the one between a worker's ears,
Holding
had been
holding
bypassed.
that spoon for so long.
The simple, boring truth is that machines don't forgive. They don't recognize just a second.
You ever get like your fingertips go numb from holding a
Every shortcut in
spoon?
a factory is a coin flip where both
I'm
sides
not
are
right now.
tails. Jay thought he could steal 60 seconds from the machine. Instead, the machine collected the next 30 years from him.
Huh.
Or the camel's complaint. Picture a bright, chaotic Saturday at the zoo. Kids are having meltdowns over ice cream, and parents are navigating strollers with the grim focus of combat pilots. In the camel enclosure, a large dromedary is doing what camels do best, chewing thoughtfully, blinking its long eyelashes, and generally existing like a giant, hairy, opinionated beanbag. Our guy, let's call him Rick, is on a date and has spent the entire morning trying to impress his companion with his supposed way with animals. So far, this
I heard this wall make a tap just now.
Misidentifying a capybara.
The only
as a
thing that's
giant
on that
hamster.
side is the
The
animatronics.
fence around the camel yard has a large, clear sign that says, in no uncertain terms, do not touch or feed the animals. To Rick, this sign was merely a suggestion. He needed a showstopper for his Instagram story. He handed his phone to his date, leaned confidently over the railing, and decided the peak of comedy would be to pretend to nibble on the camel's shoulder. It wasn't a real bite, more of a pantomime chomp for the camera. The camel, who had been patiently enduring the heat and the crowds, read the room. And the room screamed disrespect. Without any warning, without any aggressive sounds, the camel simply rotated its body, folded its long legs like a well-oiled camping chair, and parked all 1,200 pounds of its weight directly on top of Rick.
Ha!
The crowd let out a collective gasp that was half laughter, half horror. It looked absurd, like a cartoon, until you remembered that a camel weighs more than a grand piano.
Mm-hmm.
Rick's legs vanished under the very serious beanbag. His date's expression went from amused to horrified in record time. Handlers came running, clapping, and calling the camel's name, trying to coax it up with offers of hay. The camel was completely unimpressed. It wasn't angry. It wasn't being violent. It was staging a silent, incredibly heavy protest. Seconds stretched into a minute. Rick was making muffled sounds of regret. When the camel finally did decide to stand up, it did so with the slow, deliberate grace of a ship rising from the sand. Paramedics stepped in, because Rick was not bouncing up for a curtain call.
Huh.
He was taken away for medical care he now desperately needed. The lesson here is beautifully simple. Fences aren't decorations. An animal in an enclosure is still a wild animal, not a plush toy for your amusement.
Yep.
And if you feel the urge to act like a cartoon character, just remember that cartoons bounce. You don't. Seriously, Australia loves two things: beaches and warning signs with big red icons that scream, don't. Our guy, Ethan, weekend surfer, full-time dopamine chaser, scrolls a feed full of cyclone clips and decides the weather alert isn't a threat. It's branding. The beach is officially closed. Lifeguard flags are down. The wind is punching sideways
Well,
like a leaf.
I mean, that's the one dumb thing that I do enjoy.
Phones up and commentary.
I love weather.
Ethan
Harsh
smirks
weather.
and says the line that should come with a
I'll
seatbelt.
go outside and
Algorithms
when
love
they
talk.
tell you to stay in.
He zips his suit, tightens his leash, and sprints into a froth that looks like a washing.
But I will not go swimming
The first set slaps him back to shore.
in the ocean
He
in a
grins
hurricane.
lightly. He goes again.
Again.
Out past the shore break, the ocean stops being a playground and becomes a machine. The surface breathes in steep pulses. Rip currents rip. He paddles diagonally like he remembers from a tutorial, but the current moves him sideways like a chess piece he can't control. His friends whoop. Their screens shake. A black wall rises on the horizon, taller than the pier lights, and scrolls in like a closing garage door. He turns, commits, and tries to drop in. For half a second he makes it. Board nose points down, knees set. The lip pitches. The whole roof of the wave caves over him with a sound like a bus going past your face. He disappears. The board shoots free, tether buzzing tight, then slack, then tight again. It's a yo-yo with a heartbeat at the end. The next wave doesn't care.
I went surfing before. I know how to
It picks
surf.
him up and tosses him like luggage. Whitewater fills the world.
I've
He reaches for
surfed.
daylight and
I do a
finds
little
it.
surfing.
He tries to pull his leash and finds the board acting like a
That's
door
one
on a
thing
hinge,
you won't see me do
whacking his
on
legs with
this
every
on
spin.
YouTube is
The
surf.
rip catches him and escorts
So
him
more or
toward
less
the
do it on
jetty
my
where the
personal
storm
time.
surge is chewing up wood
Off
like popcorn.
screen.
On the dune, someone says, call it. Another says, wait. Lightning coughs in the clouds in a spiderweb arc that makes everyone flinch.
I mean,
A lifeguard truck
I've already
appears,
got a full
even though
repertoire.
the beach is closed.
Don't need to
Because
add
closed
surfer
is a
to my
suggestion
bio.
to people like Ethan, and a responsibility to people with
But I
sense
do
of
know
humor.
how. And I have done
The
it.
guard
It's fun.
squints, thinks about going in, then sees the color of the water and the speed of the sets, and shakes his head. You do not win roulette against a cyclone. Not without a team, a sled, and a plan written by people who like sleeping at night. The next series stands up even taller. It feels personal. It isn't. It's physics. A board pops to the surface 50 yards down, leash trailing like a loose kite string. The friends run with it, screaming his name into wind that steals voices for fun.
Huh.
The phone in one pocket chirps from a waterproof case, still rolling, still believing it's part of something epic. EMS arrives. Sirens are thin, swallowed by the roar. Time moves strange at a beach when a person doesn't come up. It stretches. It snaps. It leaves a mark. The storm keeps cleaning the horizon with the indifference of a giant. Later, by some salty miracle, the ocean tosses the phone onto wet sand like a dare. The clip stops on Ethan's face, grinning at the camera, one hand forming a shaka, the other pointing to a wave that looks like a wall you could park a truck on. Caption draft at the bottom reads, Cyclone Session. The rest of the draft wrote itself, and not in the way he planned. The official line says, entering hazardous surf during a tropical system.
Oh.
The unofficial lesson is louder. The ocean doesn't care about your brand. It does not clap for your courage. It does not negotiate. If the sign says closed, go film a reaction to the weather report from your living room. The algorithm might love drama, but water loves winning. Pick the thing that lets you go home and tell the story yourself.
Yep.
7. Black Friday. Dawn. The
Ooh.
parking lot looks like a tailgate for a sport called bargain ball. Doors open. The crowd spills. People jog like the floor is lava and the prize is a toaster. Our main character, Kendra, spots it from the escalator. A 75-inch monolith basking on the second floor display like a shrine to excess.
The fuck is a monolith?
Please use the stairs. Another adds, electronics is downstairs. Kendra calculates the math of impatience and decides stairs are for people who like losing. She slips past the line, climbs the balcony rail like it's a jungle gym, and sets her jaw. I'll beat the rush, she says to no one and everyone. Phones rise. The internet loves a bad choice in progress. Below, stacks of boxed TVs form neat aisles with end caps that are not, as a reminder, trampolines. The drop is one story. Not Grand Canyon, not trivial. Kendra swings a leg, balances on the narrow lip, and eyes a landing zone that looks soft only in her imagination. A security guard sees it unfolding and sprints, palms up, voice calm. Hey, don't. A friend says, Kendra, come on, just meet us at the bottom. She hears none of it. Sales sirens are loud. She pushes off like a misguided gymnast. Gravity takes the baton. For half a heartbeat, she floats. Then the floor arrives early and with opinions. It doesn't stick anything. The big TV stays where it is, smug as a statue. The crowd winces in a unison oof that echoes off tile. Someone finally says what everyone knows. Call 911. Staff form a ring to keep the swarm from filming too close. Because of course people are filming. A manager kills the music. The store goes quiet in the weird way places get quiet when the punchline stops being funny. Kendra isn't popping up for a selfie with the trophy. She's still. The emergency team appears fast because malls train for this exact brand of enthusiasm. They do their practiced work, efficient and kind. A shopper tries to step around to grab a discounted soundbar. A worker blocks and says, "We're closed on this side." Priorities are real time now. Upstairs, that balcony rail gets a fresh strip of caution tape and a new sign that reads like a parent's sigh. No climbing. Later, the narrative will be polite. Fall from height during crowded retail event. And the comments will be mean because the internet can't resist, but the core stays the same. She traded stairs for air. She traded 2 minutes for forever. The TV didn't move an inch. That's the quiet punchline. Objects wait. Floors do what floors do.
My pajamas on. Hold
Human
on.
bodies are not designed for stupid. If you want to beat the rush, set an alarm earlier. If you want a TV, wait for next Tuesday. If you want to live, use the stairs and your sense. And if a stranger in a blue vest with a name tag says don't, that's not a sales pitch. That's a gift. 8. The Amalfi Coast is so pretty it breaks people's decision making. Cliffs, lemon trees, water the color of new glass. Nina, an amateur painter with a good eye and a bad habit, sets up her easel on a pull-off where the road turns and the sea throws down its best blue. She pins her canvas, she mixes paint. The light is a show. She wants to catch it, all of it, even the part that refuses to be caught. A small sign nearby says, what signs always say on cliffs? Stay back. Edges crumble. Gusts happen. She's focused. Focus is good for art and rude to caution. Nina steps back to widen the view. She squints at the horizon, pops a new brush, and steps again. Her heel kisses gravel that was a path until last winter's rain
Now I'm
half
cozy.
into the bay. She regains balance, laughs at herself, resets. A tour group puffs past with bright hats and good intentions. One person says, bellissimo, at her work, which is the correct word. Nina smiles and steps back 3 inches more to see if her mountains need more violet. The wind freshens. It comes around the curve with the force of a whisper from a giant. Her hat lifts, she snatches it, and everything shifts by a degree that matters. The cliff doesn't crumble in a Hollywood way, it just ends where she thinks it doesn't. Her foot finds air. Momentum does